Hi, I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. In today's video, I thought I'd talk about the good and the bad points with the Positive Grid Spark 40 amplifier. Now, every time I do a video on this little amp, I always get comments where people are complaining about the customer service. What I thought I'd do before making this video is to go and have a look at a few different review sites and to see the reviews that people are leaving on the Positive Grid. Now, there's a lot of negativity, so I'm just going to read out a few of the reviews that I found. So, first one, Positive Grid's handling of my direct purchase has been atrocious. Comment number 2, ordered my Spark at the end of January, received it at the end of June. It worked for 1 week and then it broke. Comment number 3, don't buy from them if you want your item on time or any customer service. Comment number 4, worst customer service ever. Now, I should just state that I've never had any communication. I've never contacted Positive Grid and they've never contacted me. But they've even taken it upon themselves to use some of my videos for their own social media advertising for this little amplifier. Now, as I said, they've never been in contact. They've never asked my permission to do that. Let's talk about Positive Grid's customer service. Positive Grid are selling these things by the bucket load. There's a healthy second-hand market on eBay and people are even selling these things for more than they actually paid for them because there's such a backlog. It seems to me that Positive Grid weren't expecting this little amplifier to be such a hit. Now, I don't really think that's an excuse for bad customer service. Now, the bad customer service could be down to COVID. It could be down to bad management. So how do we deal with bad customer service? Well, I guess for people that have already put down their money for the Positive Grid, you just got to wait for it to turn up. And for those of you that haven't, well, you've got the choice to vote with your feet and maybe go and get one of the other products that are out there from great companies such as Boss, Black Star. There's plenty of others, and I'm going to go through some other choices later on in this video. The next problem that I want to talk about with this little amplifier that I talk about in all of my videos is the bass response of this. Now, this amplifier, the bass response of it is far too much for this little amplifier. It's got a little port in the front, and you'd think that this little bass port that's actually about here is producing all the bottom end, but it's not. It's the actual sound of the amplifier. Now, if you take the headphone out or if you take the USB out, you get the same overhyped bass response. Now, that's a software thing, in my opinion, and they could easily sort that out. So hopefully in the next iteration of this, they will do that. I also hear that some people have got ground hum problems with their Positive Grid amplifier. Now, personally, I haven't had that, and I have heard that Positive Grid are sending people replacement power supplies, which is a really good thing. Another question I often get asked in my videos is 40 watts, is it loud enough to gig with? I can guarantee you this is not a gigging amplifier. It's a practice amp. It's a great little practice amp, and I'm going to explain why later on in the video why I think it is such a great little practice amp. But I've got some valve amplifiers over here. I've got a Mezzo-Boogie rectifier, which is 50 watts. I've got a divided by 13, which is 23 watts. And I've got a Rev D20, which is 20 watts. I can guarantee you that 23 watts on that divided by 13 amplifier over there is would blow this thing out of the water. 40 watts doesn't mean 40 watts. You can't translate a 40 watt digital amp to a 40 watt, even a 20 watt valve amplifier. It doesn't even compare. So if you're doing a little cafe gig where maybe you're on your own and there's 20 people, possibly people will be able to hear you, but that's not really what this thing is designed for. My next gripe is the app. Now, there's a lot of good points about the app that I will go over. It's really well laid out, really simple to use. Can be a bit fiddly, especially if you're using an iPhone, but a large iPad like this, it's actually quite easy to control all of the controls with your finger there. My only problem with the app is that it crashes. Now this is the latest iPad Pro and crashes all the time. But when it works, it's great. Enough of me moaning about this thing. Let's go through some of the good points about this. Now, the look of it is one of them. This has got, as James Ivey calls it, the WAF factor, the wife approval factor. Now you could have this in your lounge, in your study, wherever in the house, and it's pretty unoffensive. If I brought in one of my amplifiers over here and I stuck it in my lounge, my wife would go bonkers. So I could have that in my lounge, guitar next to it, and it's there. And anything that encourages us to practice guitar is a really good thing. The next positive thing I'd like to say about this, and it could also be a negative thing, but is the amount of features on this. It's great because it's got so many different amplifier types built in. Now, just because an amplifier looks like a Fender Twin, on this it doesn't mean it's going to sound like a Fender Twin. Just because you dial up something that's supposed to be the 5150 style amplifier, it doesn't mean that this is going to sound exactly like a 5150, but it sort of emulates the sort of sound that these amplifiers produce. The backing track feature in this little amp is a great little idea, and again, it's getting us used to playing with backing tracks and probably taking a lot of people out of their comfort zones by playing, instead of just noodling by themselves, to actually create some structure to their practice. I think that's a really good thing. I know that I've listed a lot more negative points than positive points, but I really think that when Positive Grid get their infrastructure sorted out and their customer service sorted out, I think, you know, it's got the potential to be a great little practice amp. But let's have a look at some other alternatives. Now, the first alternative that I would recommend if you're looking for a little amplifier like this would be the Boss Katana Mini. Now, the Boss Katana Mini is very similar in size to this. It's probably a little bit smaller. The great thing about the Boss Katana Mini is that you can use it as battery power. So you literally can take it anywhere and it will always be a little practice amp that you can have next to you. I'd also recommend the Blackstar HT range. Blackstar do a variety of different small practice amps. Blackstar are a great company, highly recommended, and from what I can tell, their customer service is excellent. And another great amplifier, if you're looking for a small form factor practice amp that does quite a lot, is the Yamaha THR. I think anyone that's got one of those little amps always raves about them, and the customer service, again, from Yamaha is second to none. Now, if you're looking for a proper amplifier, an amplifier that you could actually gig with, and you don't mind something that's a little bit bigger, I can highly recommend something like the Boss Katana, the Laney Cub, or the Fender Blues Junior. Now, all of these amplifiers you could actually gig with. I think the Laney Cub and the Fender Blues Junior, very small amplifiers. I think they're about 15 watts each, these amplifiers, but possibly loud enough to gig in a proper situation. And the Boss Katana is definitely loud enough to gig with a band. I know it's not the normal sort of gear review video that I do, but I think with all the stuff that's going on with this amplifier and people moaning about it, I felt it was only right that I did. Now, I am going to say that until Positive Grid sort out their customer service, I'm not going to be doing any more videos on the Positive Grid, as I don't think it's right. And I also don't want people thinking that I'm associated with Positive Grid. I really hope you guys got something out of that. If you did get something out of it, don't forget to like and subscribe and click on the bell button, and you'll be notified of any future video that comes out from the Studio Rats. I'm Paul, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.